Okay, Shanna. Well, I'm really delighted to be here with you. You are an expert in ADHD in women, and am I am I accurate so far?
Well, it's also men. I wrote a book specifically. They asked me to write it specifically for women. I actually asked if we could write it for both men and women because in my coaching practice, we help men and women equally. So, but yeah, I'm an expert in both.
Well, why did they ask you to write a book specifically for women?
Great question. I have no idea, but I think well, they were saying that there's not a lot out there, specifically regarding women and ADHD, and I think there's a lot of misnomers around women and ADHD. So that's what they were interested in. When you look into it, there's actually quite a bit out there for women and ADHD now, thank goodness. But yeah, I wanted to write for both men and women because it's important for both genders. But yeah, so I'm happy that I wrote the book. I'm happy it's able to help women. The book is also able to help men too, though. So it's got our coaching stuff in it.
Yeah, it seems to me that you are probably an industry leader in ADHD coaching and knowledge. And the reason I'm excited to chat with you is because I personally know very little about ADHD. I I think I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about it. So let's just kick off like every podcast does and just give us the sort of the history of you and your background in this expertise.
Well, I had no idea I had ADHD until I was in my 30s. So my my background is just living with ADHD. My background first is living with ADHD, not having any idea I had it, which is the situation for almost all women in our generation. Um, Trying to figure it out myself. But then once I did. I was able at the time when I knew when I was diagnosed with ADHD, I was actually working as a program designer for a coaching program, and I was not a coach at the time, but it was a nonprofit job. And they wanted me to design a health and wellness coaching program, which I'm not an expert in. I just want to say that. But the program it was for a bunch of career counselors across the province of Ontario. It was for over 2,000 individuals, and it ended up being a really great program, and it worked, and people were hitting goals, and doing exercising and like fitness things and dietary and whatnot on their lunch breaks, and getting their teams together, and it became like a cohesive work environment where they were, and everything was going well for them. And that was when I was also diagnosed with ADHD. So it was sort of the background of where how I got to this was, I guess, like a lot of things was accidental. I just wanted to eventually, when I was diagnosed, I had a very strong need to transfer my skills of learning how, I knew how to get people from point A to point B, and to transfer that into, I guess, just a population that I really loved and understood on a deep level. Um, yeah, so I just started from scratch in that way.
Got you.
I didn't set out to be a coach.
Well, I don't think a lot of us did. A lot of many coaches had their own awakening or awareness of some underlying thing, and that's really what pushed us all into it. What is it like though? I mean, when we think about our origin story, when we come through these conditions and struggles, personally for me, like as an example, mine was pre-diabetes, right? So my origin story is pre-diabetes. And I will never forget what it feels like to be pre-diabetic. I will never forget, even though I've resolved it. So I'm just curious, what does it feel like to be undiagnosed ADHD?
Okay, so this is such a good question, and I love that you compared it to being pre-diabetic. You are no longer, correct? Like definitely, you look like, you sound like you are in excellent health. Um, I have ADHD, and I have it every single day. And the only difference between now and before is now I know how to manage it. However, I definitely still struggle with just living with ADHD. And you know, it's a completely different universe when you know what the problem is versus not knowing at all what's quote unquote wrong with you, right? So that's the difference. But I still have ADHD. You know what I mean? And anyone who has ADHD still is always going to have it, no matter how amazing they are at managing it. And I feel like not being diagnosed with it for so long was it was so difficult for so many years that it gave me a very deep emotional understanding of the pain that so many of our clients live with. And regardless of whether we know it or not, I think that's, I guess, if you want to call it like, you know, the blessing or the gift of having lived through that is, you know, there's no pain that I hear about day to day from coming from our clients or prospects or people that are just interested. There's nothing that I don't emotionally connect with. Like, I really get it. I really get where every single one of these people are coming from. And that's actually why I wrote this book, because there's a lot of people that I said, yeah, like the publisher came to me, and I'm running this coaching company, and it's quite large, and we have a lot going on. And they wanted me to write this book, and I didn't, it's a lot of work, but I wanted to because there's so much pain, and there's a lot of people that just can't afford coaching. Right. And that, I think for so many years, that's what breaks my heart, is like the amount of people that come to us for help, that desperately need our help. And we just can't, they just can't afford it. And I can't, you know, our rates are as low as they can possibly be because I have to pay my coaches. Yeah, so I don't have any control over that. But what I did have control over is putting everything I know into a book that people can just buy from Amazon, and is much more affordable. That's what I was able to do. So I just really wanted to help.
Amazing, amazing. The book is called Invisible ADHD.
Yeah.
What invisible? What does that mean?
Because it is for women. They wanted me to write this book for women. And for women, the symptoms of ADHD are not noticeable. And so there's a few things. Like, number one, the symptoms are there's completely internal. So when you think of ADHD, a lot of people still, even now at late 2025, they're still thinking of like the super obvious, visible, annoying character traits of, like, you know, little kids, little boys usually, you know, running around a classroom and causing havoc and just like being really impulsive and disruptive and quote unquote annoying. So they're the ones that everyone notices, right? And they're the ones that get in trouble and, you know, go to the principal's office and all of that good stuff. And girls almost always go under the radar, and they are not noticed. They're usually quite quiet, but completely, you know, nonstop, very loud activity going on in their mind all the time that keeps them very distracted and paralyzed. so it's not noticeable. It is invisible. But also on the flip, the word invisible is because a lot of women and girls just don't get noticed. They just don't get noticed. Or a lot of them are even, most of them actually, were misdiagnosed with something else completely. And so not just is the ADHD symptoms, not only is that invisible, but the person is like invisible. They're not being helped. They're not being treated.
Interesting.
They're just stuck. They're stuck.
So is it that I'm going to try not to get on my feminist soapbox here, but is it that
No, you can do it.
is it that it's like,
Because there's a lot of that.
right, oh, it's hormones, or is that way?
For sure.
Yeah.
100%. And, you know, it's like that time of month, or she's just crazy, or she's just overly emotional, or like, name it, because it's very emotional. It's all, like, almost all of the symptoms for women are emotional, even if it's just like being completely paralyzed and not knowing what to do next. And that's like, you know, and they just feel like paralyzed. And there is that. There is also the fact that, like, so many, even now, like the ADHD official, you know, even if you're going to say, okay, I'm going to give you a test for ADHD. It won't be for depression. It won't be for anxiety. Let's focus on ADHD. Even that assessment is very focused on the male traits, which is mostly executive functioning. It doesn't touch, even the ADHD assessment right now that they give you at the doctor's office doesn't touch on the emotional side, which is almost all of the women's symptoms.
Right. Okay. Cool. This is where I wanted to go. So, like, because I was going to ask, what are the signs of ADHD that show up in women? Like, potentially that get mislabeled as burnout or mood, or, what are they? Like, what are a few of them?
I would say just very up and down emotions because we have there's nowhere to put an emotion. So here's like the number one thing that everyone needs to know about ADHD is that a person who has ADHD, male or female, we have a brain that's not able to compartmentalize. So that's it. So if you think about it, if you have a brain that doesn't have any compartments to put anything in, and it's all going on like at the same time, same place, same moment as everything else, your emotions are going to do exactly the same thing, and so you just feel everything. It's not like, oh, I feel pissed off about that, so I'm gonna like file that for later, and I'll just get pissed off about that when after work, right? It's just always all the time. And so for women, it's a lot of just like not being, kind of just being stuck inside of our minds, like just really being trapped inside of an emotion, catastrophic thinking, just, extreme overwhelm to the point of like, I call it the deer caught in headlights syndrome, where you're just like frozen and paralyzed. Uh, a constant, almost like a magnetism towards drama, which is interesting. And it's very female specific because it's like this unconscious need to create stimulus, right? So we need the stimulus. That's a whole other segue. But drama it's almost calming. It's almost calming for our brain. And so you have the emotion, you have the overwhelm, you have the, impulsivity, and just like a need for like, you kind of feel balanced in places where it's a little bit, higher frequency.
Oh my goodness. When you were talking about compartments,
Are you thinking about like four people right now that it's like, oh my God, I have to like talk to them about this? So
one of my dearest friends is diagnosed ADHD and is checking
do you see those traits in your friend, what I just mentioned? Yeah.
specifically the feeling everything. That was really interesting to me. But I never thought to think of that from the perspective of compartmentalizing or compartments. And so then
No one talks about it that way, but that's really what it is. And once you understand that, you can everything makes sense. Even procrastination makes sense. Like disorganization, time management, like all of it makes sense when you understand our inability to compartmentalize.
now I want to ask this question, but I want to make sure I don't sound like I don't want to sound disrespectful or like I am a noob. So I'm accepting my noob status on this, right? But just on the off chance that you hear this a lot, okay? Just on the off chance, I want to preface this by saying I don't mean to sound whatever dismissive, but it's things like an ADHD trait is having 75 tabs open on your browser. Well, I have 75 tabs open on my browser, and I'm easily distracted and I procrastinate. But maybe that's because life is distracting and overly busy. There are some lifestyle inputs that just kind of seem ADHD. So then the screening, because I would say I can compartmentalize my emotions 100%. I can do that. So then right out the gate, it's like, is that sort of the nuance that we're talking about here? Like you kind of have to have a certain cluster of symptoms that coexist to get the diagnosis, or they're
Yeah. So here's the thing, because like, at this time of our world, it's almost like, how can you not, exhibit these symptoms? How can you not be overwhelmed? There's like a billion things in like every category happening for all of us. The way to know, honestly, and this is what they'll ask you at any doctor's office is, have you had these symptoms for your entire life? Not just now as an adult, as like somebody with like, a billion different responsibilities, but was this you as a kid?
right. Before you got your iPhone, were you like,
Yeah. Basically, well, the doctor that finally diagnosed me correctly wanted to see all of my report cards,
oh, yeah.
and randomly my mother had them. But, as since kindergarten, it was like the same comments, which is really funny. Like she's always like basically spaced out, not paying attention, interrupting. Like I would ask like the wrong question at the wrong time because I wasn't paying attention to what was going on around me. But it was definitely a pattern since the age of, since they were tracking me, like 5.
Oh, that's so interesting. Okay. A lot of I'm really getting to know my friend here now at a different level. You mentioned though that like traditionally the diagnosis of this was more oriented toward the male expression of symptoms. Is there has the diagnostic questionnaire has it improved? Is there now one specific for there's not.
No, you have to go to a doctor who actually knows about this, which there are, they exist. Otherwise, you will be filling out a questionnaire designed, just around the topic of executive functioning, like going from point A to point B, organization, time management, all of that without hitting on the internal struggles that really, that's like the number one thing for women.
Okay. Now, as somebody who has a coaching practice in this realm, have you created a questionnaire that's more comprehensive?
Yeah, well, we always ask, what are, the people's like that are coming to us, like what their internal reality is, their relationships, their communication, like where they're struggling the most. And even when people come because they're, having a hard time being on time, like the most, surface, I call those surface issues because like, we don't really care if our legacy involves the fact that we were on time. We don't like at the end of, at our funerals, we want people to say, she was so organized. like it's not really it is a big deal, but it's not a big deal. It's a big deal because of who it affects. Right. So like, in terms of your communication skills and in terms of like how you are with your partner or your kids or your friends or, things like that. What's your internal reality? How do you feel? Are you anxious all the time? Are you terrified? Are you always living with imposter syndrome? If for the people that are successful, especially women, it's like literally almost 100% of the time, I don't deserve to be here. And those are things that we are constantly talking to our clients about because it's like everybody experiences this. We're all in the same boat.
Yeah, yeah. That does make it somewhat nebulous because, let's pull the thread of this, like, I don't deserve to be here, imposter syndrome. Potentially something that a lot of women simply feel just because of, I'm just gesturing generally to the state of the world. Like, um, but so like, I want to get a little bit more into the behaviors or so you've named a few. So anxious, terrified, imposter syndrome, the freeze kind of version of, I guess, overwhelm.
Yeah, paralyzed. Think like just paralyzed and overwhelmed.
Yeah. What else? What else do people present with?
Just a very hard time making decisions is incredibly common because again, we're like if you have nowhere to put any, one idea and it's really hard to follow through on anything because it's all getting mixed up in like this whatever like smoothie that's in your brain, right? Then like how on earth are you going to make a decision? Because there's always these other, paths that you can go on constantly. And like you're making decisions and then once you do make a decision, you're making a decision about your decision and you're second guessing that decision because it could also be that. So it's like everything is just like wide open and there's nowhere for anything to actually settle. And so that's it's a very big problem, especially for women in leadership positions, right? And so if you're constantly struggling with decision making, it's very hard to move forward because every day of your life you have like how many decisions do we make in a day? And like if you're stuck in half of them, you're stuck, period.
What advantages does somebody with ADHD have?
The only advantage, in my opinion, because I'm one of maybe the few, I'm not sure, but I'm definitely a person who does not believe that ADHD is in any way a superpower. It kind of got this label, a little while ago, like maybe 10 years ago, where it's like, you got this superpower because we're supposed to make people feel good about the fact that they have ADHD. But honestly, in my experience, it makes people feel worse because they don't feel good and like they're really failing with a superpower. And if you have a superpower and you're still failing, that's really bad. So I don't think it's a superpower. I don't think there's a lot that's great about having ADHD. There is, we have a talent to get completely zoned into things and hyper focus. And that can be an amazing, amazing thing where you're just like glued and nothing can come in and just like, you're like in the stimulus zone and everything is just like all about that one thing that you're doing. And that said, it's also not a great thing to be able to hyper focus so well, because there's a lot of things that you miss, and there's a lot of things that you don't make it to because you're still zoned into that thing that you were doing. So, not to be negative, because I'm not a negative person, but I don't think there's a ton of positives around ADHD, but there's a ton of positives around any individual, okay, regardless of an ADHD diagnosis. And so when you learn to manage your ADHD, like, that's when all of your positives get like highlighted, and you can actually present yourself to the world the way you deserve to be presented, and you can do exactly what you want to do.
I actually really appreciate that perspective. I really like it that you're taking this ADHD as my superpower to task.
Ugh, yeah.
Like it's a pretty bold line in the sand.
I think so, and it's completely true. It's just true. ADHD is not a superpower. I'm sorry, but if you think it is and you have ADHD, the chances are that it's not the ADHD that's the superpower. It's you. Period. It's your soul. It's your life. It's you. It's your attitude. It's your way of being. It's not the ADHD that's the superpower.
Got you. And also too, like that sort of cheerleadering, it's your superpower. It might prevent somebody from making moves to learn how to manage it. Do you know what I mean? Like that could almost keep somebody stuck.
I think it does. I think it does. We have a lot of people. We we have a lot of people who come too late because they were trying to make the best out of this diagnosis, and they thought, or they were caught up in the in a spiral. I don't know what social media, where they were getting their feeds from or whatever, but they really expected it to be awesome. And when it's not, they're not going to get help because they just have to figure out how to make it more awesome. And the truth is, it's just, straight up, it's not awesome. Let's figure out how to manage it, just like how you would teach a child to ride a bike. Like, this is definitely doable. Okay? Period, end of story. And then you can be awesome. And even more awesome than you already are, because right now you're still awesome.
Right. So the question I want to ask isn't a good question, so I'm going to start framing it as well as I can. The question I want to ask is, so how do we manage ADHD? That's not a great question. So let me just kind of flesh it out a little bit, because I mean, you mentioned that, that the pain and the desperation that folks feel once they recognize this in themselves and they want to come to you for coaching. Not everybody, that's not available to everybody. But inside your coaching program, your protocol, your method, is there a universal approach, or is it very, very personalized, or some kind of hybrid of the two?
Okay, so I'm going to say this to you because you're a coach and you understand the world of coaching. So there is no universal approach, number one. Number two, there are coaching academies that specialize in ADHD coaching. And I don't, I used to think that those academies would just give us coaches. Like, they train the coaches, and then, because there's a lot of coaches who are incredible coaches that just don't they're not amazing at getting their own clients, because it's a totally different skill set, right? And so it has nothing to do with who they are or whether they're smart or not, because these people can be geniuses. They're just not great at client acquisition. Okay, fine. So that, like, we hire coaches and we train them and we give them clients, and there's like zero strings attached. We just want them to be amazing coaches and kick our clients' butts, right? And so then there's these coaching academies that specialize in ADHD. And so I'm like, this is a dream come true. We can just hire those coaches that are already trained. But their approach to managing ADHD isn't it wouldn't work for our clients, and I'm assuming a lot of people with ADHD, because it's very life coachy based um, in the way of teaching people that the client is really their best expert, and never tell the client what to do ever, because that's very anti-coaching. And um and so and I get that. I understand that if you have like the ability to find those answers, like, you should be, the master of your own destiny, right? Like, we should have these answers within. However, when you have ADHD, it doesn't work like that, because your answers change by the minute. by the minute. And so your answer, if you have ADHD, which you don't, but if you did, and like I asked you a question about how something feels for you, or if you did know, what would you do? You would give me an answer today that would be, and if you have ADHD, it would be completely different than the answer you give me in 3 hours if you ate something that made you not feel so well, or if somebody said something mean to you, or you didn't get a text back from somebody that you were expecting to text you back right away, or like any kind of emotional hit is going to affect how you answer your own questions. So that's a problem when you're coaching people, and you expect them to have all of this internal wisdom. It's really hard. It's not going to work very well for a person with ADHD. So it's not a one size fits all approach. It's what we do. Our coaching methodology is so individualized. It's a very odd business model because you can't scale it in that way. You just can't. It's just not like that. We're not going to productize what we do. It's impossible. And so, yeah. And so, there are other, places that do ADHD coach training and such, but I don't think it's the best way to go about it.
Okay. So, this is so interesting, and now my wheels are turning 'cause some of the client
I know, right? And no, this was a big learning for me as well, because
I can only imagine. But, one of the things I do wanna make sure we drive the conversation to, because this is where my head is kinda going ahead, is thinking, like, I work with women in my coaching program. Whatever percentage of women are undiagnosed ADHD, do you have statistics on that?
well, it's changing. It's definitely changing. Yeah. So I don't know how many are like right now. I know there's so much noise right now for women in ADHD, that hopefully a lot more are getting properly diagnosed, but it's still less than men being diagnosed because women tend to be misdiagnosed with anxiety or depression first. Because those are the when you tell your doctor you're feeling this, that, and the other thing, they're going to give you an assessment for anxiety or depression. That's like the normal way to go before they do ADHD.
Yeah, I'm working with women, and I have a very traditional coaching background. Motivational interviewing, let's zero in on that, for example. Motivational interviewing is about connecting your clients to their intrinsic motivators. And theoretically, a person should have a solid grasp on what intrinsically motivates them, but not the ADHD.
No, that would be really hard. That's interesting that you say that because if you ask me about my intrinsic motivation, I don't know if I could answer that. I don't know where I would even go with that.
Yeah, so it's like, why is this important to you?
And yet I'm a very motivated person. Like,
Yeah, yeah. The whole idea of, like, well, why is that important to you? Like, why is this the most important thing for us to focus on? That could change on a dime.
yeah, I wouldn't even today, being in the position that I'm in and having, this, like doing what I do, that would be a really tough place for me to go. I don't know what I would say. I would ramble for an hour.
I'm just running through, like, another common coaching question, to your point, because you framed this up really great. In traditional coaching models, it's client led. So I might say, what do you think the gap is here? What do you think the weak link is here? I might throw that to a client thinking I'm empowering the client into their own solution or decision making.
And you very well are. Like you might be 100% unless it's, someone like me.
Right. So this is why my wheels are turning, because in my roster of 40 clients, midlife women, what if 20 of them have ADHD, and I'm asking them to tap into their intrinsic motivations and tell me what they think, and maybe I'm guiding them this is making me really think.
Uh-oh. No, no, no. Okay, so don't second guess yourself because listen, if you if your clients, like this is not your first rodeo, okay? You've had like a lot of clients over over a long time. If your clients are doing well, then what you're doing is working. Okay. Now, out of 40 clients, the chances are that, 2 or 3 would be maybe diagnosed. Like let's say 5 to 10% at the most. So maybe 2 to 4, right? Would be maybe like officially diagnosed with ADHD, not 20. 50%. No. but and you know what? To be honest, those 2 to 4 individuals might be having a hard time coming up with their intrinsic motivators, but it's not 20. Yeah. Now you're going to go into your client roster and be like, who's failing?
I'm gonna I'm adding this to my intake form. Like, do you have an ADHD diagnosis? I mean, I don't know. Because this is very interesting to me because in addition to hosting this podcast, I'm also a health coach educator at a school that trains health coaches.
Some of my favorite coaches in my company that we end up hiring are health coaches. Are health coaches by training. So you should let me know if you have any amazing health coaches that want to be ADHD coaches with us.
We have thousands. Well, I mean, so I've I have thousands I can send your way.
Oh my gosh, we're always hiring. I'm serious. Like if you have incredible coaches, like legitimately, I'm totally serious, Erin. If you have like, oh my gosh, like this person is incredible and they would be so happy working for a company who constantly feeds them clients so that they don't have to go out and get their own clients because that is a pain in the bum, then, send them to me for real. 100%.
You heard it here
We
first,
will,
coaches. You
what?
heard it here. You heard it here first, coaches.
Oh yeah, that's true. Hi, coaches.
Coaches, come. It's ADHDcoaching.com. Is that where they can go to track you down?
That's where they can go. But they would, yeah, they would, what would they do? Yeah, ADHDcoaching.com, and they can go there and there's an email address on that page and they would say, interested in applying for coaching position. And they can even say, heard Shanna on Erin's podcast, and then I can be in the background and actually know what's going on and take care of them.
Right. So then when you like, just since we're on this topic, so if you bring coaches, you need coaches, obviously, because it sounds to me like I want to make sure I'm interpreting this correctly. Your approach to coaching is extremely personalized because you mentioned it's sort of an unscalable model, but it's just not, it's just in,
It's just very personalized.
that's just how it's going to be. And it almost sounds to me like it's more directive.
Yes.
Okay.
Boom.
So you're actually telling the clients what to do.
100%. 100%. We actually have a coach opportunity page that when we're in a very when we're like hiring, like we're first of all, we are always hiring coaches, but when we're like, oh my gosh, we need 10 new coaches and we have to like put an ad out there, there's a video, and on the video it says, because sometimes people need to be told what to do. And I'm literally telling people that, like, you have no problem we are highly directive because sometimes people just need to be told what to do. And the truth is, with our clients, it's almost always the case. It's almost always the case. So yeah, you have to be so comfortable with that and almost relieved by it. Because like a lot of the applicants are like, oh my God, thank God, I really want to, I'm always like, I want to tell people what to do. But obviously we train our coaches in like so hard that they know what to do. The coaches know what to do to be able to tell the client what to do.
Amazing. Okay, that was my next question. So first of all, I'm 100% with you. There's a lot of coaches who want to be a directive style coach. Like the motivational interviewing client-led style isn't for every coach. That's fine. And so then coaches come in and you train them how to deliver your coaching.
Program, methodology, all of it. Yeah. We train our coaches so much. Like there's an onboarding that, it takes a few weeks. And then when we start to drip them clients, because you can't just give a coach like 20 clients, they would want to jump off a bridge because these are all ADHD clients. So it would be really stressful. But when they start to get clients, then they join our team training sessions, which are every week, and they still happen. Like my coaches that have been with me for over 10 years are still in the trainings. Like it is so fun because when we all get to be together and troubleshoot and so the training doesn't end. The training doesn't end. Yeah. Just like for you, like as a leader, like I'm the leader, you're the leader, right? Like it doesn't end, like our growth and our learning never ends. And that's how it should always be.
That's amazing. I love this model that you've built. What I like so far about this conversation is that you have like your flag is planted firmly in the ground from the perspective of what you believe and what you know and believe about ADHD. And you're not afraid to go against the grain on ADHD, for example, the superpower thing. Strongly held conviction, but also you're not afraid to go against the grain on traditional coaching models, right?
Right. Yeah. You just want to do what works. Like nobody goes into a business to help people with ADHD to make money. Like it would be so dumb because this is not a market that's like, they're like losing their wallet. All those, you know what I mean? So this is truly an industry. Like you said, a lot of people are like business savvy and they're going to help business executives and people who can, but I want to help people with ADHD because I really want to help them. Period. End of story. And so you have to do what works. You can't do some model that's like supposed to work for 95% of the population and when it specifically doesn't work for our market.
Yeah. No, I like that. And being able to help, like, ostensibly everybody with ADHD, including potentially I know you have worked with some high level executive teams and things like that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But also, the every person. You want to help everybody.
The the mom, the single, the 30-something-year-old highly anxious, young woman that just miraculously graduated. We have like 18-year-olds that are in their first year of university, whose parents obviously are paying for the coaching, but it's we have coaches that work with every different coaches are able, the beauty of that is it's not just me anymore. The beauty is that like we have coaches that are like specialists with our students. We have coaches that are specialists with our high level executives. Everyone's kind of got like an avatar, and we have a few coaches that are really great with everyone, but
Okay, I love this.
not that many, but we do have a few.
This is amazing. This is an amazing model. Um, but I'm just thinking through.
It's chaotic though, and it's not very scalable. So don't follow this. Like this is bad business. Like don't. There's nothing scalable about this.
Yeah, fair enough. But it is very truly a passion project, and most coaches get into this because they are passionate about helping people. And so, one of the things I get a little salty about is some of the messaging in the health coaching industry about attracting high ticket clients and scaling to multiple six figures. And it's like, oh, sure. But also
It's yucky, right?
yeah, it can be a little disingenuous. I mean, I'm not to disparage anybody who's striving for that, right? I have a peer who uh, it only works with people who are willing to spend, like, her coaching package $25,000, and she's like, I'm looking for high ticket, high end ladies who have money to spend on.
Good for her. That's great. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, she gets 6 clients a year. She's made a good living, whatever.
She's happy. Yeah, that's awesome.
But many of us are drawn to this because we want to make a difference. And so, I know that you're being, you're kind of joking or tongue in cheek or being serious about the model here isn't scalable. It's not a get rich quick scheme, but that's fine because there's.
That's why nobody else does this. Like, nobody would do this because you'd have to be nuts. In my opinion, there's never a quiet, not, because you're dealing with clients who have ADHD. So everything is urgent. Everything's an emergency. And you're dealing with a lot of coaches, which you understand because that's what you do as well. So I put that on top of, thousands of clients who have ADHD, and it's like you you have to be nuts.
Juggling flaming bowling pins. But I'm okay. So I'm thinking about this again from, because I just thinking through, like, our audience listening here, who many of whom might be really excited to come in and apply to work with you. I wouldn't be surprised if you get tons of applications from this episode.
That's crazy. I wasn't expecting this to go in that direction, but we would love that. Are you kidding me? Like, are they trained by you? That's amazing. No, I'm serious. Like, if anyone's listening and wants to apply, please put Erin's name in there so I know I know you're her friend and that you're her student.
Amazing. But I just want to drive this conversation around to people like me who are in private practice working with other people on other health concerns. So again, like, my background is in metabolic health. So I'm working with women who are insulin resistant and pre-diabetic, and they're working on their food behaviors and sleep and movement and lifestyle and all these, really generic health improvement stuff that people struggle with. And if we assume that two or four of my clients in my roster potentially have ADHD, I'm thinking through, obviously goal setting becomes a struggle because they're not able to necessarily anchor to a very solid ground in terms of intrinsic motivation. So goal setting becomes a little bit difficult. I'm wondering too, like, accountability wise, do these folks struggle with accountability, or how does that shake out?
Oh my God. That's like, accountability is a game changer. They need that. They need that.
Okay.
They need that. There's nobody who doesn't need that. It's a requirement. So you have to buddy them up, Erin. Get them in your program. I mean, you probably already do this. I have no idea, but have them, buddy up and have an accountability partner.
Interesting. Okay. So then in your coaching program, accountability is a massive factor.
It's a huge part of it. It's huge.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense because if you have a directive coaching style, it's like, here's what you're going to do, and here's how we're going to, keep track of it, basically.
Make sure you're doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
And just
No, that we are able, like, I'm able to confidently say that a client will get results every session, because number one, we do things on the spot with them, right? But also because we make sure, because they have to be accountable. They have to be moving forward. Otherwise, I don't sleep very well.
what would be an example of something that, like a directive or a task that you get a client to do?
There's like a gajillion things that they could do if they're like a directive. Like, it's like, okay, well, I have 50 billion tabs open on my computer and I just don't know where to start on my project, and I just don't, one of the things that we're going to do on a coaching session is open your laptop, go to your laptop. If it's, yeah, let's go to those tabs right now. We're going to take 5 minutes. 5 minutes, and I'm setting a timer on my phone, and here's what we're going to do. And in 5 minutes, you will be astounded by how much we can accomplish when you're doing it with someone else, and you're doing it, fast and furious, and it's enjoyable, and you're talking it through. And the beauty about how momentum works is, honestly, they could close 3 tabs in those 5 minutes only at the very minimum, but they're going to keep going because it's already started. And most of the time, we're so stuck before we even start.
I love that. I love that. That is such a good example.
Oh, cool.
No, I just want to reflect that back because if the client, for example, is stressed out about all the tabs open pertinent to this project, we're going to set a timer. You're going to basically click into every tab, look at it, and decide if it needs to stay open or closed. Something like that.
Yeah, and you and I will do it together. Okay, so what's the tab? Stay or go. Like, what about this one? Stay or go. Okay, keep it. Whatever. Okay, whatever. Let's just go through, like, you can go through probably 50 in 5 minutes.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Great example. And so then
That's a very basic example. There's some much more complicated things that we can do, like sending an email to that person that you've been struggling with, whether it's personal, or sending a text, whether it's personal, your boyfriend or whatever. Just, let's do this together. Because when you're stuck in your head, because you're completely paralyzed and you don't know where to start, because there's 50 billion options of where to start, and you can't figure it out on your own, and your coach is with you, basically talking you through it. How does it feel to start here? Can we start over there? Yes. Okay, let's do it. And then we're doing it together. A really big thing gets to be completed, or at least started. And that is just like such a game changer for our clients who have such a hard time getting started.
yeah. Now, what is the long tail of this? And by that I mean, let's say you get into the coaching conversation with your client and it's like, okay, we're going to write this text message together and you're going to press send on this call, right?
That's like the little, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. But so what I'm wondering is this imprinting in them some behavior that they can replicate in the future, or are
Of course.
they okay, so they don't have to do this for every decision in their life forever and ever.
No, it's just, like when you go to a gym and you start with a trainer and you're doing like the 3-pound weights, and then eventually, you're doing it every day, and then you're going up to the 5-pound weights, right? When a client, like, our we are not in business to keep clients with us forever, right? We want people to do this on their own. But the only way, in my opinion, for an ADHDer to learn how to do anything that's actually going to change their life is by doing it. Not by, even though I wrote a book, so this is like, not by reading about it. It's not by reading about it. It's by doing it. And I actually say that in my book, like, don't just read about these things, please, because it's so easy for us to do that, right? And so when you're doing these things regularly with your clients, and it goes way beyond tasks, like get the text done or open your laptop and close the tabs, it's also communicating with your family during Christmas. Like, now you're going to be surrounded with all of these people that you have some of them you have a really hard time with. Let's role play. Okay. And let's practice some things that you can actually say when, not if, you get triggered by your sibling or your parents or your, name it. Right. So this is what you're going to say. Let's practice it, because if it's just in your head, it's not going to come out of your mouth so easily over a Christmas dinner as if you're just like, saying it with your coach. And you and I have said it now like 20 times together and we've had a good laugh about it. It's going to come out of your mouth much more easily. So it's also, interpersonal things, not just task management.
Right. And so then it is skill development. That was kind of the orientation of my question, which I know was a naive question. I know it sounds naive for me to say, "Oh my gosh, are these ADHD people that they have to every time they have to close 3 tabs on their browser, are they coming into a coaching call because they forgot how to do it last time?" But no, there is them learning. Yeah.
No, 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 no. They're not dumb. Like really smart. Yeah. No, but they didn't imagine if you're always stuck in this in this state of I just don't know what to do when. And then you practice honestly closing the tabs because I don't actually need that. I opened that like 3 months ago. Why the heck is it still open? What did I need to do with this anyway? And you and I are practicing it together, then that whole week for sure. And especially because we have another part of our coaching program. Our coaching program isn't just on the spot doing actions. We also have, after the coaching session, at the end, we always give our clients like homework, but we don't call it homework. But it's just like one thing that they have to do that week. So it might be, every day I need you to close one tab. That's it. Pick the tab you're going to close that day, and let me know what it was. But it's also something they have to practice throughout the week. And once you've done that every day for an entire week after practicing it with you, with my coach on a session, it's going to become part of your own little toolbox. Like you're going to be able to do that on your own.
That's amazing. I appreciate this. This is amazing. This is an amazing model.
I'm so happy. That's great.
It sounds very high touch, what we would call high touch, which is why you described it as being unscalable.
Oh my gosh. Erin, that's exactly what it is. It is high touch. Like in our own little world, we call ourselves like the Ritz-Carlton of coaching. Um, because it really is. And that's exactly why it's not scalable. You can't hire just any coach to do this. Like you have to be somebody who really gets it on a deep level, and it's no problem like holding people, not just like holding them accountable, but like holding them in a way of like you're hugging them, like you just love them so much, you're not going to let them go, you're not going to let them fail ever.
I really love this coaching model, I have to say. And I also, by the way, I'm really appreciative of you being patient with my noob questions because I can imagine.
Oh no, I love them. Are you kidding me? This is not, I hear these questions a lot because people don't really, it's not the norm. It's just not.
Yeah, and I think about it from somebody that I love dearly in my life who's diagnosed ADHD, has a lot of the virtually every single example you've given here she presents with. And I don't understand. I don't understand. And so, I can it's helping me understand her a lot better, which is good. Like to the point where I'm going to definitely point her to your resources, but also I want to learn more about them too. Which brings me to my next question, which is how would a coach like me or anybody know when their client's ADHD is like beyond their scope?
You just, well, how do you know when a client's anything is beyond your scope? Because sometimes we have clients who are beyond, we have clients who have comorbid conditions, right? And which is so common, right? And they have extreme depression as well. And it is beyond our scope. And we just know that because it's not, they're so stuck in the depression, right? So if you're not a trained ADHD coach and a person is so severely ADHD that they literally cannot move forward at all with your coaching, you know it in the same way that we're not able to get people out of their depression and like so easily, or sometimes you just need a different person to help. You need a different professional.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. You're right. It's just like anything. If you're bumping up against getting the outcomes that maybe the predictable outcomes that you typically might get with a typical client, then that would be a little bit of a flag that might go up to say this person has something else going on, whether it's their mental health or their physical health or whatever it might be, where you would refer out.
Yeah, you refer out. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's a beautiful gift, I think. That's how I see it. If I can refer somebody that has something else going on that's extremely severe and is not ADHD related, I feel lucky to be able to refer them out.
So I'm picking your brain for a long time here. Really appreciate again the patience. But are there like tools that you use? I'm thinking through some of the, the stuff that I've seen and heard around maybe like gamifying? Do we gamify these things? Is there,
Gamifying is excellent. I love gamifying. Yeah, and it's really great for people who have ADHD because I think gamifying is great for everybody. Come on, but especially for people with ADHD because it's got that extra energy jolt stimulus. Um, it's a little bit anything that's a little bit less boring or mundane is always helpful.
yeah. And what about like to-do lists? Are to-do lists pointless for somebody or with ADHD or useful?
To-do lists can get very out of hand. So for a person who has ADHD, my mantra is keep it to 3 and you're free. Because otherwise you have to-do lists that are 600 items long on many, many different pages, plus a bunch of whiteboards on the wall. And it's like this nonstop, never-ending to-do list that literally just causes the overwhelm and the freeze, and nobody's moving forward on any of these items. And in fact, there's just more items being added to the to-do list. And it's a recipe for disaster. And nobody feels good when their to-do list keeps like getting bigger and bigger rather than smaller.
Ooh, I definitely don't have ADHD because I'm all about like the tiny to-do list. But
Yes.
I'm thinking about my friend again, and shout out to Tash if she's listening. But anyway, one of her things, she loves to learn. She's so engaged with what everybody's doing. Engaged with what everybody's doing. If she's having coffee with it really is. If she's having coffee with somebody and the person says something interesting, she whips out her notebook and writes it down. This interesting thing a person said. Now, I don't know if she's ever looked back at any one of these 1,000 notebooks that she's filled up over the years. But the act of writing it down feels important to her.
I think that's cool. She should self-publish that. All of it, out of the mouths of my friends. And just have these like words of wisdom. And well, she's writing it down because I mean that's how she's locking it into her brain. Because she's also likely unconsciously afraid she's going to forget what it was that was said. And so it makes sense that she would write it down. It totally makes sense because she wants to remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even if she never rereads it, the act of writing it down helps embed it into her memory.
Yeah. Not to make this about her, but another one of her interesting characteristics is that every single one of her supplements has to be out on the counter. Because if it goes in a cupboard, she won't know them, that they exist.
100%. We do that all the time with our clients. Take it out of the cupboard. Take it out of the cupboard. Put it on top of your coffee maker because I know you're going to go to that. Yeah, tie it to something that you always do. Put it like attach your toothbrush to it.
Oh, nice.
We call that piggybacking. When you tie any kind of like new habit that you tend to forget, to an existing very, deeply embedded habit, you piggyback it together so that you remember to do the other thing that you might forget.
I love that. Cool. So I would love if you could, if you have one off the top of your head, I'd love if you could share a before and after story that captures what can change for a person when their ADHD is finally supported correctly.
Yeah, this is like where it's like, well, which one do I pick? There's I should go to my phone and see what my coaches have just been texting me about. I get successes all the time. All the time. But one that just came yesterday was from one of I don't want to name my coach, but she texted me about a client that's been with us for 2 years, which is actually unusual. Most of our clients are not here for 2 whole years, but if they keep growing and growing and they can do it, then why not? I get, as long as, for me, as long as they are always creating new successes every month. So we track successes for every client. So I have to know that clients are actually moving forward and not staying stuck. That's really important for me. But for the first time ever, and so this was like a really big deal, for the first time in her whole life, she's having her family come to her for holiday dinners. And it sounds kind of basic. Like when I'm saying it out loud, I'm like, this is so nothing, but this is such a big deal because this woman in particular never has people over, ever, because she's ashamed of her house or disorganization. It was a mess. It was a mess. And also she, beyond the, disorganization, a part of her house and the fact that she's not very confident in food and prep and, just hosting in general, she also had some pretty big issues with two members of her family. So this was a huge thing. And so, yeah, so to have them over and to invite them over, in addition to like the rest of her family, uh, oh my God, it's it's so big in so many ways because not only is she, healed in her own like ability to like, get stuff done, quote unquote, like get organized and learn how to, make a couple of things or at least order a couple of things. Way more important than that is she's healed these relationships that were devastating for her when she first came because she was actually estranged from one of these family members. And it was a really big deal. And so she healed herself on so many different levels. And I thought that was just one of the most brilliant, beautiful stories. That just came into my texts yesterday. So because we're talking about holidays, and prep, because it's pretty emotionally loaded with a lot of clients and such. But for me, that's so transformational. Is someone who's been like struggling so much in so many different areas of her family, and now she's like having them all over and having a holiday meal, and she's like, and she had the guts to do that, like just to bring them over, and they're saying yes. They said yes, and everyone's coming, and it's just beautiful. So I can't wait to hear. There's a continuation. I can't wait to hear how it goes.
That's right. That's an incredible, incredible success. Now you mentioned that you're tracking your client successes to make sure that they're moving forward, and that's really critical. I love to hear that. Now, this particular client's been with you for 2 years, and you mentioned that's maybe not typical. How long, or what's the typical trajectory?
I feel like a year is probably a good trajectory because we only work with adults. We don't work with kids. And when you are an adult, let's say you're 45 years old, you have had ADHD every single day of your life for 45 years.
You're born with it.
Yeah, you're not gonna cure it in 3 months. Like a lot of coaches have we have plenty of clients who come. We don't lock people into anything. Or again, bad business model. but we for people with ADHD, we're not gonna have them commit. It's crazy that we do that, but we don't have them commit.
So you go month to month, just ongoing. Yep.
They just go month to month. They can leave whenever they want. They can leave whenever they want. They're not tied to anything. And that's comfortable for me because I don't like being tied to anything. So I don't want to tie anyone else to anything. But but you're taking a very non-committal group of people and not having them commit to anything, which is pretty funny. But yeah, I'd say like at least I'd say probably a year is really solid if you want, for like life transformation, and it's very reasonable, and it's not it's a big deal to change all of these habits and to literally almost like not change the wiring of your brain, but in effect, change the wiring of your brain, so that you go from point A to point B and it's not a big deal and you can get stuff done and feel good and, just, quote unquote, feel a lot more normal and be a happier person without, being flooded by overwhelm every minute of your life.
I can't tell you how much I've learned from this conversation, and I love so much of what you're doing. So obviously I'm grateful to experts like yourself. I'm grateful that there's ADHD experts. So if I encounter it, I know where to send somebody. I'm not going to become an ADHD expert.
Good. We need them.
Yes. And I really love your coaching model because it is exactly what these clients need. They need no long-term commitment, no big high-ticket, expensive, crazy coaching packages. They need to be told what to do, not encouraged. So you've really created this bespoke ADHD program in every single way. Like I think about programming a lot because I'm a health coach educator. It's like how are we meeting our clients? And every single sort of category of client needs something different. And what you've created sounds absolutely picture perfect for this audience. I think it's an amazing business. I know that tongue in cheek, it's not scalable. It's a little bit of a wacky business model, but for these clients, it sounds absolutely ideal.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I'm always growing too. I'm always like trying to do better. And the way that this grew was so organically. This was not meant to be a company. I just wanted to have some clients. It was just going to be me and some clients. But but the way it's designed is honestly the way I would want it for me personally. Like that's it. That's all it is. It's just like this is what I would want. Let's do this.
That is exactly gold. That is a very gold takeaway for every coach listening to this, regardless of what you do. Design it the way you would like it. There's a ton of wisdom to be had. And what experience would I like to receive as a human being trying to improve my health, happiness, life, whatever, in whatever.
Right. What would I need? What would I need personally?
Yeah. I even think about this from the perspective of pricing. What feels like a comfortable price for me, Just because my peers charging $25,000, I don't feel comfortable. I feel more comfortable at this price point. That feels good to me. We're gonna go with that one.
Yeah, I know. Like even when you're so like, you have like a coaching school, right? It's like you could probably charge that much if you wanted to. I think maybe we could too, but I just wouldn't. Like I just can't. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be able to. I wouldn't want to do that. So, but power to those who do, and that's fine. Like I know coaches that charge. Honestly, I know of a coach um, like in our city that is known for charging $1 million a year. Like who does that? That's great. And I'm going to put that out there to you and your listeners because I guess this is in the realm of possibility as a coach. That if that's in the realm of possibility, then go for it. There's no limit.
Well, what did you call yours? The Ritz-Carlton? This VIP white glove service?
In our that's like an internal thing. You won't find that anywhere online. Like I would never say that, but that is how I want my coaches to treat our clients. That is all I want. It's just like we are going without the price tag. We are going to take the best care of you. You're going to like leave here like in a completely, in a different first of all, with a different kind of, brain working, but, just feeling amazing.
Oh my gosh. I love this. Very inspiring. I'm so grateful for this conversation. I'm also grateful because I quickly checked and your book is on Audible, which is exciting for me because that's how my preferred way of listening, reading books.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to give it a listen.
It is. Yeah. I hope you don't get sick of my voice.
Amazing. Okay. So Shanna, like just wrap us up. Where can we find you, your book, and get more information about what you're doing out there in the world?
Okay. So my book is called Invisible ADHD. It is awesome. I poured like most of our coaching manual into this book for tools and such. So go for it if you think you need help, whether you have ADHD or whether you're just, super paralyzed and overwhelmed. It's going to help for sure. And you can find me at adhdcoaching.com. And yeah, if there are any coaches listening to this who are really, just don't want to spend the rest of their life like trying to get their own clients, and you think it would be super exciting and you feel inspired to want to help adults who have ADHD, you have to reach out because we're always hiring amazing coaches. And mention Erin's name and I will personally be in the background taking care of you.
Amazing. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Shanna. I love this conversation. I really appreciate you and the work you're doing.
Thank you. Same as you, Erin. You're doing fantastic. And I love what you're doing as well. For real. I looked into everything that you're doing. It's like, I love it.
Thank you.